Hi, this book is called Tim in Danger by ARDIZZONE. ARDIZZONE. Edward ARDIZZONE. It was a lovely day when Tim, Charlotte, and Ginger were playing on the beach. The sky was blue, the sea was blue, and the white yachts were sailing in the bay. Come and play in the boat, Ginger. No, I won't. But something was wrong with Ginger. He would mope. Charlotte thought that he was remembering the time when he was a ship's boy and was pining for a life at sea once more. She was right, for early the next morning, when Tim woke up, he found Ginger's bed empty and a note from Ginger on it to say that he had run away. Tim quickly called Charlotte, and they decided to go and find him at once. What a silly boy! Fed up, have run away to see Ginger. Tim quickly called Charlotte, and they decided to go and find him at once. First, they hurriedly got dressed, then Tim wrote a note for his mother to tell her not to worry and that they would be back soon. When this was done, they both set off to the station to take the train to the seaport town. As they were walking along, they met their friend, the market gardener, who was taking his vegetables to the town. He was a kind man and gave them a lift in his van all the way, so they saved their train fares. Tom Rompkin's fresh vegetables. Do you mean the boy with the one eye and a nose like two potatoes? Once at the town, they went straight to the docks, and there they asked everybody they met if they had seen Ginger. Never heard of him, but nobody had. After a time, they became tired with wandering about and asking questions. Feeling rather sad, they sat down on a bollard to rest. A bollard is where boats tie up, beside the docks. As they were sitting there, they had a great surprise. They were watching a small steamer sail slowly out of the dock, when at one of the portholes a face appeared, crowned with a mop of red hair. Charlotte immediately recognized it as Ginger's. "Oh dear," said Tim, "we can't follow him now. We must go home without him." "Look, there's Ginger." You can imagine how sad they were. But worst was to follow. When Tim felt in his pocket for the money to buy their railway tickets home, it had gone. There must have been a hole in his pocket. Oh, what shall we do? It was getting dark now and beginning to rain. Charlotte, who was tired and hungry, began to cry. Tim was tired and hungry too. They crept into a warehouse to shelter from the rain. There they found a corner among some packing cases in which to rest. Soon they were asleep, but they had not been asleep for long when they were roughly woken by a man's voice saying, "What are you doing here?" Tim told the man their story and how they had no money to go home. Said the man, "you can't stay here. Can you work?" Tim said, "Yes, I have been a ship's boy before, and Charlotte can cook and sew." "Very well," said the man. "I am the captain of a ship. We sail almost at once. I am short of crew, so we'll sign you on, Mr. Bosun. Take them aboard and make them work." Soon after this, the ship sailed. Tim and Charlotte had a chance to slip on deck and watched as the ship steamed out of the harbor into the evening light. Though it was now dark, it was a long time before Tim or Charlotte could go to bed. Tired as she was, Charlotte had to peel lots of potatoes, while Tim was given a bucket of water and a brush and made to clean out the seamen's quarters. Tim was tired too, but he was also unhappy about his parents. They would be so upset when he and Charlotte did not come home. How could he let them know? Luckily, he met an officer who seemed friendly and who promised to ask the wireless operator to send a message. This made Tim feel much happier. "Don't worry, my lad." For the first few days, Charlotte found the work very hard, and when she was alone in her bunk, she could not help crying a little and wishing she was at home. But as she was a very good cook, she soon became a great favorite with the crew. "I say, that smells good." Tim found the work hard too, and was often very bored with scrubbing and cleaning. However, as he always tried to do his best and never complained, everybody was very nice to him. "Well done, my lad. Take a rest now." "Thank you, Mr. Bosun." Tim and Charlotte's best friend on board was the second mate. He was a very fat man, and a very sad one too. He was sad because he was always unlucky and felt that nobody liked him. He was, however, a kind man, and would often say, "Now, children, stop work and sit down and talk to me." "How I wish I had a nice home like you." When they would tell him about their home by the sea and about Tim's mother and father and Ginger, he would sigh and say that he wished he had a nice home like other people. To tell you the truth, he was really very unlucky. Everything he did went wrong. The captain would get terribly cross with him, and the sailors would tease him and call him Fatty behind his back. Even the ship's cat, who was friendly with everybody, would have nothing to do with him. One day, when Charlotte was sitting on the deck, darning the sailor's socks, she noticed, "You are a most inefficient officer." "Old Fatty's getting it in the neck." That means getting in trouble. Getting it in the neck. That the second mate looked sadder than ever. She asked him what the matter was. "Oh dear," he said, "it is my birthday, the day after tomorrow, and nobody will remember it. In any case, I am so unlucky. Something horrid always happens on my birthday." Charlotte felt so sorry for him that she decided to make him a birthday cake. As a surprise, a very fine cake it was too. It was full of currants and sultanas and had lots of almond icing. Tim, who was good at drawing, iced it beautifully. On top of the cake, he drew a picture of the ship in blue and red sugar. That night the weather grew worse. The sea had a cold and oily swell, which made the ship rattle and rock, but worse still, there was fog. The fog crept into the seamen's quarters and made them cough as they lay in their bunks. The cake says, "Happy birthday." It crept into the galley where Tim and Charlotte were reading and writing, and made their eyes smart, and the ship's cat sneezed, "Achoo!" Just my luck. Fog. It crept into the second mate's cabin and made him more miserable than ever. It crept onto the bridge and made it difficult for the man at the wheel to keep his course, or the lookout man to see ahead. It worried the officers terribly. They could not see where they were going. Fog, I don't like it. Dead slow ahead, and sound the foghorn. Aye, aye, sir. The next morning the fog was worse than ever. The captain and all the officers were on the bridge, peering ahead. On the brig, peering ahead. The ship's foghorn was going moo, moo. Suddenly there were shouts of, "We are going to collide! Look out!" Then there was a sound of bells and reversing engines, followed by a terrible crash. After that, for a short time, there was silence. They had run straight into another ship and cut it in half. The halves were sinking. Tim and Charlotte rushed on deck, and they saw a terrible sight. The two halves of the sinking ship could just be seen. In the water, men were struggling and shouting for help, while lifeboats were thrown to them and boats lowered to the rescue. The captain ordered Charlotte to go below to the galley to make tea and prepare bandages, as the rescued men would be very cold, and some would be badly hurt. Tim was ordered to help lower the lifeboats. "Aye, aye, sir. Tea and bandages, my girl." "Aye, aye, sir." Soon all the sailors that were in the water were saved, and the captain had decided to leave the scene of the disaster. When Tim, who had had very sharp eyes, noticed a dim red shape that looked like a boy lying on the forepart of the sinking ship, he pointed it out to the captain, who immediately ordered a boat to go to the rescue with the second mate in charge. Tim was in the boat too. He had jumped in without waiting for permission. The first on board, and he was astonished to discover Ginger lying unconscious on the deck. Now they were all in great danger, because at any minute the wreck might sink and drag them down to the bottom of the sea. Quick, she'll sink at any moment. But in spite of the danger, they calmly went about the difficult job of lowering the unconscious Ginger into the boat. And they did it only just in time, because no sooner had they done so and rowed a few yards off than the forepart of the ship plunged beneath the waves. In the meantime, Charlotte was down below in the seamen's quarters, bandaging the men who had been hurt and giving them hot, sweet tea to drink. You can imagine how surprised she was when Ginger was carried down and laid at her feet, and how anxious she was too when she saw him unconscious. However, blankets, hot water bottles, and tea soon made him better. "Certainly not. Spirits are bad for wounded men. Hot sweet tea is best. Shall I give him some rum, miss?" And she replied, "Certainly not. Spirits are bad for wounded men. Hot sweet tea is best." The next day, Tim and Charlotte were so busy looking after the wounded men and talking to Ginger, who was now quite well. "How are you feeling?" "Comfortable, thank you, miss." The officers were brutes, and I was overworked, that they quite forgot the second mate's birthday and only remembered it when they saw the cake in the galley. Poor second mate. They decided to take it to him at once. Charlotte carried it, and followed by Tim and Ginger, they marched to the second mate's cabin. But, of course, they could not put any candles on the cake because they did not know his age. I knew they would not remember it. There they found him looking dreadfully sad. However, he soon cheered up when he saw the cake and insisted on their each having a slice. Then the captain came in and congratulated him on the brave way he had helped to rescue the shipwrecked sailors. He congratulated Tim and Charlotte too, and said that Charlotte had done splendid work in looking after the wounded men. "This is the happiest day of my life." After this, the weather became fine and calm. The men who had been hurt sat on deck in the sun and soon got well. Charlotte was busier than ever with the extra sailors to feed, but she had Tim and Ginger to help her. "You have done a good job. Now get on with the painting." "Aye, aye, sir." The second mate was very happy. The sailors obeyed all his orders and never called him Fatty. And, of course, Tim and Charlotte and Ginger, too, were favorites with everyone. When they arrived in port, Tim sent a telegram to his parents, saying, "Have found Ginger, will be home soon." Then, with the money he and Charlotte had earned, they bought railway tickets for their journey home. "Goodbye, I won't forget to write for your birthday." The ship won't be the same without them. "A double portion of vanilla ice cream, please." The second mate and the crew came to see them off at the station. It was a long journey, but as they had a splendid dinner on the train and had bought lots of books and magazines to read, they were not a bit bored. When they arrived home, Tim's mother and father were so pleased to see them that they quite forgot to be cross with Ginger for having run away. The end. That was another book with Story Time with Miss R. Tim in Danger. Look out for more in these series.